Joining us from upstate New York, John McLaughlin. He's the CEO of McLaughlin Associates, Republic polling firm. All right, so first of all, I always ask this to our guests. Where did I go wrong in my opening statement? Did I make any mistakes?
No, and you keyed on one thing in terms of the partisan polling difference. And that poll, it's a Harvard poll, and it looks like it was modeled to reflect the 2016 presidential turnout, where it's registered voters. So that, when I looked at it, I didn't see a crosstab for likely voters, but about 2/3 of it are likely voters who say they're going to vote in November. And they have that 37-32 model, which is what it was in November 2016, which the Clinton people didn't think was going to happen. That got Trump close enough. And your analysis that you're saying it's probably closer to even in the midterms, that's what it was in 2010, and that's what it was in 2014. But you're looking at this election where we had, when I was on the Trump campaign, part of our strategy was the president. Then Donald Trump asked me, he said, how are we going to win this? And Jared Kushner, they were like, how are we going to win this? This was over the summer. I said, 90 million eligible voters didn't vote in 2012. They walked away from Romney. It was a lower turnout in 2012 than 2008. We have to bring out millions of new voters. And we did. We had a record turnout of 139 million, of which there were 63 million Trump voters. And the strategy now for the Republicans is really for the Trump voters to come back out. They've been losing special elections, and they got killed last November in Virginia and Alabama in important elections because the Trump voters stayed home, and the Democrats had an edge there. It appears that, right now leading up to the election, the Kavanaugh hearings backfired. And that was really a play not just for the Supreme Court, it was a play for the U.S. Senate. Because as you were noting with the Senate races, out of the 35 Senate seats that are up, 26 are Democrats. And 26 of those Democrats are in states that Donald Trump won during the 2016 election. So when you're talking about Montana, there's more Trump voters there. Missouri, there's more Trump voters there. Indiana, West Virginia, North Dakota. There's Trump voters in those states that if they come back out in proportion to the anti-Trump voters, the Republicans should win. Now, other states like Florida, it's a toss-up. Florida's a dead heat, and Donald Trump, when he won, he didn't win until the Panhandle, when those polls closed on election day.
Yeah, and now the Panhandle has been devastated by the hurricane, so we don't know how distracted voters are going to be in that area.
Well, they may not even be there. I mean, if you don't have electricity, you might not have moved back.
They can vote by absentee and early voting, and they can do that, but it would take an effort to do it, which the Democrats, of course, are counting on that. So that Florida, right. I can't be confident. I told the late Charles Krauthammer on election eve that Florida was going to go for Trump. I knew it would because I saw the margin of victory in Dade County and Broward County, which are usually Democratic strongholds, and it wasn't very, very, very big for Hillary Clinton. But now I wouldn't put any money on anything in Florida. However, the Trump voters, the strategy from the White House is to now blow up the immigration issue to a level of 15,000 troops. We're not going to permit this. Do you think that's a wise strategy? Because that's what they're counting on, getting their votes out because of this migrant caravan.
Well, I tell you, somebody yesterday congratulated me on having the Republicans do this. I'm like, no, this wasn't our idea. This didn't come from the Republicans. Somebody's organizing this and creating an event, an international event prior to the election. Now, for President Trump, who won his election on a promise of securing the borders, he has no choice but to make sure that he secures the borders. And ironically, when we do polling and when we do focus groups, which we've done plenty of on the immigration issues, the people that get most upset about illegal immigration are actually recent immigrants who did it legally.
Yeah,
and were citizens.
You can understand that. Sure.
And they'll say, I dealt with the paperwork. It took me years to get in. These people their phrase is jumping the line, and they don't like it. So the majority of Americans don't like it. And the Democrats, what's amazing is, I mean, we're on the verge. If the Democrats take the House, Nancy Pelosi becomes the most powerful Democrat in the country again, and she fully supports open borders. I mean, they're for amnesty, they're for letting them in. Even the UN today was saying we should let these migrants in. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the president has no choice but to try to deal with the laws the way they are and be able to secure.
But he's trying to inject emotion into this. It's more than, we know what the president's policies are. Nobody's surprised that he's not going to let the thousands of people who are organized, as you rightly said, into the country to get asylum hearings that'll take 3 to 4 years. Nobody's surprised that he's going to not do that. But is that emotional appeal, and the president spoke today about it. I mean, he's making it the centerpiece of why you should vote Republican. Is that a smart strategy?
Well, the emotion is already there among the voters. And when he speaks out, he gets a reaction. When he holds the rallies and he speaks on this issue, he gets a reaction. But the emotion is there among the voters, right and left. The left feels very strongly about, letting these migrants in and really having an open borders amnesty situation. On the right, they feel very strongly about protecting the citizenship and the borders and knowing who's in our country and coming here. And what's interesting, when you talk about these hearings, the way you have this current catch and release system is people come in, they are usually given a summons to come back to court, and they never show up. They just stay in.
Yeah, some of them. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows what the con is. Everybody knows.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Now, Mr. Whitman yesterday conceded to me that the minority turnout on the Democratic side might be lower than the Democrats hope for. A variety of reasons, but basically in precincts that don't have a lot of money, people have jobs now, and people are doing better now. They're not as uncertain economically because there are plenty of jobs to be had and wages are rising. Okay, so he said, well, we'll make it up, we, the Democratic Party, by women in the suburbs, well-educated women. They're going to come in and overwhelm the Republicans. And so we don't really need the minority vote at a record level. Do you subscribe to that?
I disagree with those people who don't think minority voters are going to participate at normal levels. And that's where the Republicans made the mistakes in Virginia and Alabama last year. African-American voters came out at census levels. So I think they're going to come out at those kinds of levels. Where they may make a mistake is in 2016, the exit polls showed that President Trump did 8 points better than Mitt Romney among African-Americans and Hispanics. So I think the Republicans will get some share of it, but they're going to come out at census levels. When you look at Florida, Georgia, where you have African-American candidates leading their tickets for governor, those voters are coming out, and the Republicans.
Yeah, in Florida and Georgia, I would say. I think Georgia, the Democrat will lose, the Republican will win the governorship there. Gillum, I mean, if he wins in Florida, wow. I mean, he's a very far left man, extremely off the chart far left. I don't know if people in Florida understand how socialistic the man is. Governor doesn't really have a lot of national clout on the economy. But he'll govern way, way, way to the left. All right, final, you have any predictions on this? GOP holds the Senate, adds a couple of seats. What do you think?
Well, I think the Republicans are going to add some seats in the Senate. The House, I'm not sure. The odds are against the Republicans holding the House, and it looks like the Democrats are going to take the House.
By a lot or a little?
By a little. And it's going to be and we're close. I mean, everything depends upon Tuesday's turnout, but there'll be surprises. Like I think in Connecticut, a deep blue state, I think a Republican's going to win, who I'm polling for, Bob Stefanowski. I think he's going to win the governor's race in Connecticut, and that'll be an upset. So there'll be exceptions here and there, but the president has nationalized, and the Democrats have helped him nationalize the election, that it's really becoming a referendum on the president, even though he's not on the ballot.
All right. John, we really appreciate know how busy you are, and it's very kind of you to help us out. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.